Mighty YouTube. All connected? Yeah, it totally is. Alright, let's switch on over and get started. Oh, I forgot to, I don't have chat up on the screen. Yes I do. No I don't. There it is. Is that my phone ringing? It is. It's not a number I know, so they can leave a message. Alright. Anyway, so it's time for y'all to tolerate my shitty Japanese. That YouTube is fatherless. Devdar 175 Ritsuryō, Sōryō, and Meritocratic. Hey, I'm Chop, a designer working on the upcoming All Under Heaven expansion, particularly Japan and Korea. Speaking of which, in today's Dev Diary, we'll be exploring the Japanese archipelago and Korean peninsula. Let's take a closer look at the gameplay mechanics of these three new government types: Ritsuryō, Sōryō, and Meritocratic. I have been... Well, let me rephrase. It's reassuring that they're going over Korea now, because like the Korean government isn't exactly just a carbon copy of Japan or China, and they sort of haven't mentioned anything about it up until now. So, the land of the rising sun. The Japanese islands occupy an interesting position, being near enough to China to have been heavily influenced by its culture, but remote enough to have largely escaped direct interference from its hegemons. Expanding to eventually cover the southern islands of Kyushu and Shiokyu, and most of the main island of Honshu, the Yamato people occupy most of the archipelago, united under a single emperor with no real external threats. However, the northern reaches of Honshu are populated by the Emishi tribes. Further north, the Ainu tribes reside on the island of Hokkaido, and far to the south, the island chains of Okinawa and Amami are home to the Ryukyuan tribes. Famed horse archers, the Emishi have long struggled against encroachment from their southern neighbors, who have launched incremental campaigns of conquest for centuries. Japanese political map. Some coat of arms are a work in progress. I mean, it sure is Japan. It's warped in a weird... The projection's weird, but we already knew that. And frankly, I don't know a lot about what was going on politically in this time period. Is less of my knowledge base. It's a lot of provinces, though, which is somewhat reassuring, actually. Probably from the panic. Yeah, that'll do it. I hope you can get sleep. I hope you can get enough sleep when you do sleep. Eagle-eyed diary readers will notice that Japan is no longer red, instead taking the Murasaki purple of the Wisteria flower to add some visual distinction from Chinese hegemons of the crimson variety. Cool. A fragile peace. During our period, Japan transitioned from a peaceful bureaucratic realm headed by aristocratic families to a military shogunate dominated by more pragmatic samurai families. But it's still a largely unwarlike place, far from the more militarized Japan of the later Sengoku era. Amidst all this, there's also a ruling emperor, or Tenno, who is nominally the head of state, but whose power varies considerably depending on the circumstances. The Yamato dynasty has led this position in an unbroken line from ancient times even up to the present day. Government split at the, did this say 867? 866? 866. 1066. Speaking of sleep deprivation. So we have Sōryō on the periphery. The Emishi and Hokkaido. Emishi and Ainu are tribal, which is predictable. Okay. We strive to represent both these styles of governments as well as the transition between them, along with the ever-present imperial family. The Ritsuryō system. In our earlier start dates, the Heian peace era is in full swing, following Emperor Kammu's establishment of the aptly named capital of Heian-kyo, now Kyoto, in 749. 794. I can't read right. Did I mention I'm sleep deprived? This bustling city's palace is the center of the government bureaucracy and home to the imperial family, with the manners of the aristocratic families close at hand. Taking inspiration from China, Ritsuryō is the Japanese legal framework, and as in China, many of the provinces of Japan are assigned to governors, or kokushi. Among with the many branches of the Fujiwara family, the other aristocratic families of note compete for appointments and recognition. Konnichiwa, minasan. Sugoi otaku nihongo suki aibin. Hey, Kohler. Unlike China, the government is de facto directed by a regent ruling on behalf of the sitting emperor. For gameplay purposes, we've simplified the naming distinction between regents of underage emperors, Seisho, and those of adult emperors under the unified name Kampaku. Though nominally a regent, the Kampaku is not in a diarch relationship with the emperor, and both characters may have their own diarch when relevant. Weeb's true. What immaculate enunciation you have, thank you. Like I said, I don't, you may not have been here. I don't pretend that my Japanese pronunciation is any good, but better than some people. Historically, the position of regent was totally dominated by the main line of the Fujiwara family, who tried to minimize the influence of the imperial family beyond their ceremonial roles and maintain their preeminence among nobility. The Fujiwara were an extremely prolific family whose influence and sheer size essentially dwarfed those of any other family, with almost 500 living members in 1178. Playing as another bureaucratic family attempting to unseat the Fujiwara is a great challenge in itself, though not impossible. I said impossible. Want you to read me a lullaby sometimes? Let's see. Empire Japan. Regency succession. All Fujiwaras. These are the... It's the candidate score breakdown. Anything exceptionally interesting in here? Not that I'm seeing. Example of the Kampaku succession score. Becoming Kampaku works similarly to the acclamation succession of Byzantium, I was noticing that, and can be directly raised or lowered by spending influence, but also has a unique system of specific weights related to the imperial family and blocks, which we will discuss more below. Impossible is still correct. It's not what it was written, though, to be fair. Are they going to be like republics? I mean, they're going to be similar to administrative governments, it seems like, but so is China. Japanese province map. Okay. This is actually... It's a lot of provinces, but in some cases it's actually fewer than it could be, theoretically. Like, these are still really packed in here, though. This is a dense portion of the map. Also, unlike China or other administrative government types in the game, Provinces are largely county tier appointments, and generally a governor cannot hold more than one at the same time. This represents the historic Ritsuryō provinces, or kuni, of Japan, and the fragmented power of any one official. Almost all historical kuni are represented as counties in game, except for a few exceptions which were deemed too small and incorporated into a neighbor, such as Iga, Shima, and Awa. Wait, Awa I know. I know where Awa is, I think. Oh, it's right here. That's why I know it, because it's right there on the screen. You've yet to try playing this Byzantium. Byzantium's really fun if you like intrigue and if you like internal politics. Have a good night, Leo. Sleep well. I hope things settle down soon. By default, Ritsuryō rulers cannot create duchies or kingdoms in Japan, even the Kampaku. Shrewd houses may instead fill many appointments with their own members, leveraging their power as a unified family rather than as individuals, a theme common in our Japanese features. Japanese manor domicile, art is a work in progress. Horse paddock, personal workshop, large mansion, rice plot. Okay. The manor is a new type of domicile, unique to Japanese governments. Oh. It's not going to be the same domicile as other... Interesting. Sōryō, more on that shortly, is our only non-administrative government type that grants an estate-style domicile, retaining any upgrades when switching between the Japanese government types. Some building chains are only unlocked by certain house aspirations, which will be discussed more later. So I was wondering why, mechanically, and I was going to get to this in a second, mechanically, why Sōryō needs to exist independent from feudalism, and it's because of the ability to switch back and forth between the two government types, and the fact that Sōryō have, by definition, have to have a domicile. Sad we can't have Nobunaga within the scope of vanilla. I know, it's just, the timing's off, right? I'm really on the fence about a couple of things here. They're adding so many government types that it's almost getting a little complicated, overly so. And everyone and their mother has a domicile right now, and this is not... I'm not the first person to say this, but everyone and their mother has a domicile except for tribal and feudal and clan. That sucks, because I still like playing those government types. I don't know, it's just like one less mechanic to play with when you're playing those government types. The Chrysanthemum Throne. Though historically the emperor was largely sidelined, the Yamato family was still an influential political force. Over time, it became common for emperors to become monks, abdicating the throne to their heir to escape the direct responsibilities of the throne, while still influencing politics as a so-called cloistered emperor. Or... is that whole? I want to read it as a who, but I think it's a whole. In All Under Heaven, the Emperor is a playable character, a member of the Yamato family who holds a noble family and manor like any other Ritsuryō rulers, and has their own royal court. The Emperor is only a valid candidate for the Regency of Japan itself, while other members of the Yamato family are valid candidates only for governorships. Okay. Wait. Hold on. I'm like well, I'm not gonna see. Oh, here we go. Interesting. Is Tendai the religion? In the Yamato culture. Huh. I'm not familiar with the term Tendai. I wonder what that refers to. I like your funny words, Bear Lady. Thank you. Two separate long O sounds. I thought so. It's a weird way to spell it in English, in the Latin script. But it would have to be whole. If an emperor does manage to take the top title by influence, they will receive an event where they are given the option to abdicate and rule Japan as a powerful cloistered emperor, or attempt to hold on to both titles, representing the historical possibility of renewed direct rule. Though doing so will not be well received by the chattering classes. Historically, many branches of the Yamato family were eventually disinherited to prune the royal ranks, taking new names, the most famous being the various Taira and Minamoto houses, identified by which emperor they descend from. In our game, Yamato governments can form or join these houses, organically creating new branch families. Ooh. Can you be a Shadow Emperor too? I'm wondering how much... They're really not being clear about how much power the Tenno has. And I'm really curious about that. Like, yeah, can you be a Shadow Emperor? Or do you have to wrest power from the Shogun directly? The sitting top liege of Japan, be they Kanpaku, Shogun, or Tenno, always has access to a unique law category: imperial policies issued in the name of the emperor. Despite the relative political stability, the policies of the Japanese government varied substantially throughout the era, as the bureaucracy was replaced and external politics changed. Sure. Like crown authority, imperial policies can be changed freely besides a cooldown. Alright. There are a variety of available policies suited to different objectives and situations, some with wide-reaching edicts, which can substantially change the gameplay in Japanese islands. For example, rulers in the Empire of Japan are not able to freely declare external wars, representing the general lack of ambition for conquest, besides extending the northern frontier for most of our period. However, by implementing the imperial expansion policy, the usual inter-realm casus belli available elsewhere may be unlocked, along with a reduction to the cost of mercenaries and men-at-arms. Interesting. Imperial pacification. Men-at-arms and mercenaries are cheaper. Courtly vassals are pissed. Glory hounds are happy. Armory and stable domiciles are cheaper. Unlocks the Imperial County Pacification CB. Allows declaration of external wars. Fortification initiative. Religious reform. Enforced isolation. Disarmament. Banditry crackdown. Manor reform. Defensive mobilization. Interesting. Only get killed if Katana Smiths are having a monopoly over rice. I'm waiting for republics still. I want trade republics. I want trade. Other policies change the balance between government types in Japan, or provide simple situational benefits and opportunity cost. Conversely, if Japan finds itself under true threat from an external invasion, the defense mobilization policy will become available, providing an extra edge and advantage and allowing Ritsuryō rulers access to the usually Sōryō limited mounted samurai, horse archer, men-at-arms. Ooh. They're out for your sleep, Scott? That's so unfortunate. And rude, frankly. Hold on a second. Allowing Ritsuryō rulers access to the usually Sōryō limited mounted samurai, horse archer, men-at-arms. But once they're built, you keep them. Is what I'm confused by. You can only build them when you're attacked? Are the men-at-arms title bound? Or can you have personal men-at-arms? So you can wait to get attacked and then just... I don't know how this works. And I have some really important questions here that I don't know if I'm articulating right. But this feels silly. This feels like waiting to get attacked the same way someone would switch to educate their heir to be Norse to get Huskarls for some reason. Or, you know, for one generation. I don't know if I like this. Very concerned. Each house in Japan has an aspiration, similar to the house powers of Byzantium, representing the character and goals of the family as a whole. Each aspiration has several levels, each granting new boons. The house head may spend prestige to increase the level of their current aspiration or change its type, starting from the lowest level once again when changing type. Ceremony. The feast activity is cheaper, characters are more likely to accept marriage, may construct the tea house. Negated diplomacy penalty. Diplomacy per level of influence, monthly domicile prestige. Diplomacy and monthly prestige for all house members. Interesting. Art is very much a work in progress. Each type of aspiration is focused on a different area, with some more suited to certain government types than others. Service grants bonuses to governor efficiency and candidate score, and is a good pick for those who wish to climb the bureaucratic ranks and serve the emperor. Ceremony grants bonuses to prestige and renown generation, a sure choice for the noblest of families. Strength improves men-at-arms and martial skill, ensuring dominance on the battlefield. Beyond the bonuses granted, the aspiration a house chooses will also determine their political goals to a certain extent, and is the driving force in another new feature, house blocks, which I will touch on a little later. Okay. Our free patch accompanying All Under Heaven includes another family-oriented mechanic, the house relation. Ooh. These work similar to character relations like rival and friends, but are between two houses rather than two characters. Now, whenever a friendly or hostile action is taken between houses within the same realm or similar rank, such as declaring wars or arranging marriages, the relation between the houses will increase or decrease. Marriage acceptance, hostile agent scheme, success chance, because it's R, whatever R means. Less activity, invitation, less likely to declare wars. FERQNC, developer art, obviously. Wonder what those stand for, though. There's a spectrum of 7 levels from feud to amnesty. Okay, feud to amnesty, with each ranked towards the extremes, modifying the opinion of all house members to members of the other house. In addition, each level grants other bonuses or modifiers to standard gameplay when interacting with the other house, such as allowing the free negotiation of alliances or reducing the costs of all wars. History number changes 3. Members marry. Okay. This change allows intergenerational disputes and collaborations between families to persist more organically, adding another layer of reactivity to the world. Like character memories, the reasons for changes over time are tracked and can be similarly browsed to get a picture of how a relationship was developed over time. With the fragmented political map inside Japan, we wanted a better way to depict the various political groups, and a way to allow them to defend each other without traditional alliances, maintaining the fragile peace that often prevailed. House blocks are our solution and work similarly to confederations, but with houses as members rather than characters. A leading house acts as the main decision maker of the block, while other houses are considered to be their willing cooperators. The house head of the leading house gets to decide which houses are allowed entry into the block, and may also expel other member houses as well. Okay. The Taira block. I'm so tired that I read this as Sadayoshi of Chicago. This seems reasonable. Just watched the video of this about an hour ago. I know, I'm always so late because of the time zones and work. Each house block has a cohesion value, with added bonuses for all members unlocked for keeping this value high. Cohesion is based on the number and governments of member houses, whether their house aspiration matches that of the leading house, and the relations between its member houses. The aspiration of the leading house can act as a sort of defining principle for the block. A service-oriented block will eventually represent Ritsuryō interests, while a strength-focused block seeks to expand its military power. The aspiration of a house is not generally limited by their government types, and various combinations are possible. Generally, multiple blocks led by houses of the same aspiration type are not common, with interests coalescing around the most able leadership. Critically, block members will automatically join the factions of the house head of their block's leading house, increase their succession score for Kanpaku if they are Ritsuryō, and join in their defensive wars, including tyranny wars, started by attempts at imprisonment or revocation. Interesting. This makes challenging a block something to consider carefully, and any wars that do occur are far more impactful than they would be if Japanese vassals were merely isolated county-cure rulers with scattered alliances. One of the first 50 or so mods based on All Under Heaven will hopefully be a 3 Eras Kingdom type. Hell yeah, that sounds great. I hope so too. In addition, acquiring governorships for members of a house within your block, be they your own or others, can directly aid in strengthening your factions in succession wars or preventing attacks against your position, while being without a block leaves you worryingly exposed to your enemies. I'm like struggling to keep my eyes open. I apologize. I just had to chug my coffee. The rise of the Bushi. As the Heian era wore on, many noble families, frustrated by the fierce competition for appointments with the Fujiwara, despaired of ever climbing the bureaucratic ranks and instead left the capital, establishing manors in the provinces. Far from the distinguished aristocrats of the capital, the power of these families eventually grew to the point where they ruled de facto as a hereditary local nobility. Thank you for the hydrate. Hmm. We represent this by allowing Ritsuryō rulers to establish a held appointment as a fief, switch their government type to Sōryō. This is considered a crime by the Kanpaku, and all Ritsuryō governments are able to use a casus belli which returns the title. However, Sōryō rulers pack more of a punch than the bureaucrats, with access to the mounted samurai, horse archer, men-at-arms type. In addition, Sōryō rulers will generally band together to defend themselves, making resisting their spread a less simple proposition. By our last start date, almost all of Japan was effectively beyond the reach of the Ritsuryō apparatus, instead now dominated by the rising Bushi families, most notably the Taira and Minamoto houses. Japan in 1178. Block, block, block. Okay. Block. Okay. By 1178, the head of the Kanmu Taira, Kiyomori, had effectively supplanted the power of the Fujiwara, ruling as de facto dictator in a manner which would ultimately come to be known as a shogun. 2 years after our last bookmark, the Minamoto houses resisted the overwhelming Taira domination in the Ganbei, or the Minamoto-Taira War, with their leader Yoritomo ultimately wiping out the Taira and establishing the first true shogunate in Kamakura. The Three Kingdoms. Like Japan, the Japanese peninsula occupies an interesting position as a heavily Chinese-influenced region, with its own deep political and cultural history, though it is at greater exposure to invasion from the various states and tribes which lay to its north. The fairly developed mountainous region, and any threats will struggle to gain a foothold as long as Korea remains united. Character art, gods, arms, and map are work in progress. Okay. By our earliest start date, the Kim dynasty of the United Kingdom of Silla in the east had long subdued its main rivals, the kingdoms Baekje in the south and Goguryeo in the northwest. The struggle between these three states, known as the later Three Kingdoms, or Hasamguk, had raged for centuries, with Silla ultimately emerging victorious. Further north, the kingdom of Balhae, or Bolhae, straddles the hinterland between China, Korea, and the Jurchen tribes. Is CK3 Korea in the Joseon Golden Age? I'm trying to remember what time period that was. I don't know if that's included in here. I want to say it's later, but I can't remember. However, this status quo would not last long. A rescindent Goguryeo aristocracy under the Wang dynasty would ultimately overthrow Silla, establishing the unified kingdom of Goryeo, based in Gaesong. Rulers of this entire peninsula until the establishment of the Joseon dynasty in the late 14th century. Meanwhile, soon after Silla fell, Balhae was captured by Khitan nomads, who would later establish the Chinese-influenced state of Great Liao. The Kingdom of Balhae unified Silla in 867 and the Hasamguk decision. Miracle Legend become the unified. Gain the throne. Kingdom is destroyed. New throne is created and gains primogeniture. Increased cultural acceptance. Interesting. We represent the unification of the later three kingdoms via special decision. Unify the Husumguk, which can be taken by any ruler who holds at least one of the kingdoms and has taken over the entire peninsula in a dominant position. This decision destroys the old kingdom titles and creates an Empire tier United Kingdom title, which may be named Samhan or Goryeo based on the culture of the unifier. This is the only way for a Korean culture ruler to form the Korean Empire tier title. The decision also creates the Yongsun throne, a special primogeniture kingdom tier title similar to the Chrysanthemum throne of Japan. The name of this title may also vary based on the decision taker, with Yongsun or dragon deriving from the great legend of King Chiao the Great's draconic heritage. I said an extra great in the beginning. The historical founder of Goryeo. In addition, the decision increases cultural acceptance between your culture and other Korean cultures, making it easier to create new hybridized Korean culture, uniting the Silwa, Baekje, and Goryeo peoples, cultures. Peoples, cultures. I'm struggling. We're almost done. Okay. Internal divisions in 1178. The new United Kingdom also gains a unique acclamation style succession law, which is weighted towards the ruling Yongsun throne dynasty. This leaves open the historical possibility of a powerful lady taking control of the completely misread that. Of a powerful family taking control of the state from the royalty, as happened in our latest start date with the rise of the military dictators, or Banju. Beginning with Yi Yuebang and Yongjongbu, leaving the Wang family in a sort of ceremonial position similar to the Yamato family. Along with the Korean kingdoms, the kingdoms of Dai Viet, Balhae, and the Liao and Jin states will use a form of government similar to the Chinese celestial government, known as Meritocratic. This government type represents the largely administrative states heavily influenced by China due to proximity, in interference or their acquisition to claim the Mandarin heaven as a conqueror. Heavily influenced by China due to their proximity, interference, or aspiration to claim the prophet of heaven, the mandate of heaven as conqueror. Got it. Map of governments. So we have tribal here and here. We have Sōryō. Aristocratic here. Celestial. Tribal. I noticed this though. What's Nua? On Nua. Interesting. Meritocratic governments retain the noble families, estate merit, and examinations of the celestial government type. Promoting their bureaucrats to governorship was via a similar system, but may not hold imperial examinations of the highest tier. When other forms of government transition into administrative via decision, if they are near to celestial China, they tend to adopt a meritocratic rather than standard admin types. Let's conclude with a little look at the current map, all of which is of course subject to change based on feedback and can be taken with a pinch of salt. Let's start with the de jure title structures of the Far East. Yes, please. Cool. This is great. think we saw, oh, it's this too. Oh, interesting. I think we saw this previously, that the northern part of the island is part of the same empire as Hokkaido, rather than being de jure Japan to start with. Love that. Sōryō as its own entity, although this area I believe is part of modern day Korea. Hasn't drifted into that yet. I don't know a lot about Andong from a historical perspective, but having an empire roughly here makes a lot of sense. Cool. As you can see, Japan does not have de jure rights to the north of Honshu at the game's start, given the ongoing campaigns against the Amishi tribes, and that part of Japan being the least integrated into the bureaucracy. Instead, the kingdoms of Hitakami or Michinoku, if ruled by Japan, is a de jure part of the Empire of Amur, along with the islands of Sakhalin and Hokkaido in the kingdom of Anyumosir. In the mainland, the Empire of Samhain or Goryeo is bordered by the Empire of Andong, composed of Belhe and its environs. Okay, let's look at the kingdom map mode. Tsukushi, Yamato, Azuma. Can't quite read this right now with the angle, but we read it earlier and I already forgot what it is. This being its own kingdom makes perfect sense right here. Okay. Korea is its 3 kingdoms that are part of the empire. Awesome. Here we can see the internal kingdoms of Japan, made up of Tsukushi, covering the island of Kyushu, Yamato, covering western Honshu and Shikoku, and Azuma, covering most of eastern Honshu. On the mainland, Samhan is divided between its 3 constituent kingdoms of Goryeo, Bakje, and Silla. And now duchies. See here. North Sakkaido, South Sakkaido, Hinai. Only two duchies in Hokkaido. Okay. Sorry, it's dog time. That's gonna wake me up a little. What did I just click on? There we go. I covered up chat by accident. As for duchies, Japan is split into regional administrative divisions based on the... Oh boy! Some of these words are hard to read in Oromaji. Goki Shichido circuits. As Ritsuryō rulers cannot create duchies, they will mostly be formed by powerful Sōryō lords, who will use their house names. The duchies of Samhan are based on the mock administrative divisions of the kingdom of Goryeo. To the north, Belhe is split into its administrative divisions, while other areas are based on the dominant tribes of those areas. The culture map mode in 867. Okay, so we have Yamato, we have the remnants of the Amishi here, the Ainu, the Jurchen, Mohe, Nivka, Saihain is, I always forget the name, Sakhalin is split between Ainu and Nivka, Mohe, Belhe, multiple cultures for Korea, for Khitan. Looks like China is pretty culturally dominant, like, pretty culturally homogenous, at least what's on the map. That's interesting. Our cultures are still a work in progress, but broadly, Japan is mostly unified under the Yamato culture, while the cultures of Korea's later 3 kingdoms are yet to be united in the Goryeo culture present by 1066. To the north, the Belhei culture is a hybrid of Goguryeo and Mohei. Oh, interesting. Cool. Our faith map is about to undergo a large overhaul, so we'll hold off on this one this week. I want to see the faith map soon. Very exciting. Okay, I apologize. I think I was literally falling asleep in my chair at a certain point there. I think the map of Japan is great. I think the de jure segments of all of this region make perfect sense to me based on what little I know about the time period, the region and time period. My concern continues to be, also, what is this? What is this government type? This doesn't look like it says Mandela. So what is the government type of the Philippines? Wait, what is it here? Wanua. What is the Wanua government? I'm very interested to learn more about this. Very, very interested. What is a Manua? But yeah, I'm concerned about Japan. And I'd love to see, I guess it would have to be next year. I'd love to see a rework of the starting government types at this point to bring them up to snuff. Bring them up to the quality that we're seeing from the new government types. And again, the Japanese government just, it feels overly complicated to me. Maybe it's just the way I'm reading it, but I really know next to nothing of pre-Spanish occupation of the Philippines. Me too. I know very little about post-Spanish occupation of the Philippines. Most of what I know about the Philippines is within the last, I mean, since the Spanish-American War, mostly. So this I'm very curious about, yeah. Anyway, I obviously need that nap. Y'all, thank you so much for hanging out. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all that douchey shit that YouTubers are supposed to say, even though I'm not a YouTuber, I'm just a streamer. So, follow me on Twitch, do the thing in YouTube, and I will see y'all later. Bye.